Welcome to a deep dive curated just for you listeners. We're tackling those sometimes daunting, large academic symposiums.
Not just surviving them, but really conquering them.
That's it, yeah. Think of this as your masterclass in really extracting maximum value.
Exactly.
We've got 6 key areas we want to hit today, from registration, of course, to this tricky session conflicts, formality, and even some little insider tips. So
by the end, you'll be feeling confident, ready to handle any symposium challenge.
that's the goal. But first, we got to start at the beginning, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Registration.
Yeah, registration.
Seems simple, but our sources really emphasize some pre-checks that can make a world of difference.
Indeed, yes. Before you even think about, heading to the symposium, double check those little things like badge pickup, where is it, what are the ID requirements. These small details, honestly, they can cause a lot of unnecessary delays and stress if you overlook them.
Right. And speaking of delays, our sources also really hit on this idea of prioritizing those talks that you absolutely don't want to miss.
Absolutely.
Breakout sessions especially, those can fill up fast.
Oh, in a flash. I've seen people, just frantically trying to find a seat, and they've missed those crucial insights.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't plan. So think about it. Your time is precious. Prioritize those sessions, the ones that really align with your research,
Right.
the areas where you want to expand that knowledge.
So it's like creating that little personalized syllabus
Exactly.
to your own symposium.
Yeah.
I love that. So now let's move on to I think the most daunting part for me always is the schedule.
Yes.
Because so often you have these parallel lectures happening, and they all sound so interesting.
It's true. So many great options, and you can't be in 2 places at once.
No.
That's where the concept of opting out comes in.
Opting out.
And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but consciously choosing to not attend a session, even if it sounds interesting, that can be a really powerful strategy.
So we're talking about really focusing your energy, getting that high return on your time investment.
Precisely. And to make those choices, you need to define your goals. Why are you at the symposium? What are you hoping to achieve? Are you primarily looking to connect with other researchers, maybe explore some new methodologies? Get really clear on that.
Once you have that clarity, you can view the schedule through that special lens.
Exactly.
I'm already feeling more empowered. Now let's move on to something that can instantly make you sound like a symposium pro, and that's those phrasal verbs and collocations.
Ah, yes. Those nuanced language elements that can really enhance your communication.
It's like that secret code almost.
It is a little bit. Think of it as like linguistic shortcuts to convey those complex ideas concisely, with confidence.
Okay, I like that. And our sources highlight several that are particularly relevant to symposiums. First up, check in.
Check in. Now, it seems simple, but checking in goes beyond just, showing up. It's formally registering your presence, getting your badge.
That official "I'm here."
Yes. Your ready to dive in declaration.
I like that. You're ready to dive in declaration. And of course, our sources point out those late arrivals might find it difficult to check in if registration's closed.
Oh, absolutely.
Punctuality is key. Next, follow up.
Follow up. This is all about nurturing those valuable connections you make at the symposium. It's going beyond, the initial handshake or quick conversation and really establishing a deeper connection.
So more than just grabbing a business card.
Exactly. So following up could be, sending a nice email,
Right.
referencing something specific from a presentation, or maybe suggesting a potential collaboration.
So transforming those fleeting encounters into something hopefully more meaningful long-term.
Precisely.
And finally, let's revisit our strategic friend, opt-out. We've touched on it.
Yes.
But it's worth exploring a little bit further.
Oh, absolutely. Opting out is a powerful tool. It's about recognizing that you can't do it all.
Right.
You have to make choices to prioritize what matters most to you.
So rather than feeling like, oh, I have to attend every single session, you're giving yourself permission to curate your own experience.
Exactly. It's about being strategic, intentional, and recognizing that sometimes saying no to something good
Right.
opens up the possibility to say yes to something great.
I love that. Now, shifting gears just a bit, let's talk about collocations.
Collocations, yes, those word pairings that frequently occur together.
Right.
And mastering them will add that extra level of fluency to your vocabulary, showing your command of the language. So let's start with abstract submission.
Ah, yes, the gateway to getting your work featured.
Exactly. Abstract submission refers to that process of submitting a concise summary of your research to the organizers. It's your chance to showcase your work, Convince them that it deserves a spot.
And of course, deadlines are crucial. You miss that abstract submission deadline.
You're out.
You're out, yeah. And our sources also emphasize that, meticulously following those formatting guidelines, word counts, all that.
Attention to detail. Paramount.
Okay. Speaking of potential pitfalls, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about common mistakes. We've all been there. But by being aware of them, hopefully we can avoid them. Present ourselves in the best possible light. What's the first one that comes to mind for you?
Well, one common mistake is that overly casual approach. Imagine someone barging into a session late, demanding a seat, interrupting the speaker.
Ooh, yeah.
With an irrelevant question. Not a good look.
Not a good look. Not the best way to make a good first impression.
No. It comes across as disrespectful, dismissive of the organizers and everyone's time.
Right. So how can we make sure that we're projecting that professional image?
It starts with being mindful of your language and your demeanor. So, for instance, instead of demanding a seat, politely inquire about available seating. Instead of interrupting, patiently wait for the designated Q&A. It's about showing that you value the symposium, the environment, and the contributions of everyone.
Treating it as that professional space where courtesy and respect are just paramount. What other common mistakes should we be aware of?
Another pitfall is, the overly eager but somewhat incoherent questioner. Picture someone, excitedly waving their hand.
Oh, yeah.
Shouting out a question before the speaker's even finished, or just phrasing their question in a very confusing way.
Yeah, enthusiasm is great, but
channel it effectively.
Channel it.
Yes. Instead of interrupting or speaking in fragments, take a moment, gather your thoughts.
Right.
And when it's your turn, clearly, concisely articulate your question. Make sure it's relevant.
So it's about, meaningfully contributing to the dialogue.
Yeah.
Not just seeking that validation.
Exactly. Now let's talk about preparedness, or rather, lack thereof. Imagine someone approaching registration, frantic, flustered, they've lost their badge, or forgotten crucial materials.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Panic never helps.
Never helps, no. The key is to stay calm. If you've lost your badge, politely explain. Request a replacement. And if you've forgotten materials, don't despair. Focus on what you do have and make the most of it.
It's about adapting.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's move on to, I think, the more enjoyable part.
Okay.
Bonus tips.
Bone tips, yes.
For symposium success, those extra nuggets of wisdom, the insider tips.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the first one?
Arrive early. We touched on this before.
Right.
About securing those seats. But arriving early allows you to, soak in the atmosphere, familiarize yourself with the venue, and maybe even strike up a conversation before things get started.
And those informal moments, sometimes the most valuable.
Absolutely.
Bonus tip number 2.
Always keep extra materials on hand. Copies of your research, a well-designed business card, maybe even a one-page summary of your key findings.
You just never know who you might encounter.
Exactly. Be prepared to share your work in a clear, compelling way. Opens doors to opportunities.
And finally, bonus tip number 3.
Actively seek out networking opportunities. Symposiums are designed for connection, collaboration.
Don't just attend the sessions and then, retreat. Engage with the community, go to those social events, make an effort to connect.
Yeah, you never know where those conversations might lead.
You really don't. Okay. Are you ready to put all this knowledge to the test?
Let's do it. Hit me with the challenge.
Okay. Final challenge scenario. Imagine this. You arrive at the symposium. You're eager to attend the key lecture, which is about to begin.
Okay.
But as you approach the registration desk, you encounter a long, long line.
Oh.
The clock is ticking. You don't want to miss a minute of this talk.
It's a classic symposium dilemma.
It is. It is. So how would you, armed with your new repertoire of phrasal verbs and collocations, politely request expedited assistance from the staff?
Oh, let me think. I would approach the staff member and say, "Excuse me, I'd like to check in, but I'm worried about missing the key lecture. It's starting very soon. Is there any way to, speed up the process?"
Perfect. You seamlessly incorporated those terms. Check-in, key lecture. It's clear, concise, respectful, but you're highlighting that time constraint.
Exactly, yeah. It's about effectively communicating the situation. Most likely, the staff will understand and try to accommodate.
It really shows how mastering these little language nuances can really help you in those tricky moments.
Absolutely. But it's not just about language. It's about, being an active listener during the sessions themselves.
That's a huge point that our sources bring up. Attending and passively absorbing is one thing, but actively engaging elevates that learning experience. So how can we do that? How can we be more active listeners, participants?
Well, one strategy is to review the abstract, the speaker's bio, beforehand. It gives you context, and it helps you think of some relevant questions.
So like prepping for a meeting, so you're really contributing.
Precisely. And then during the presentation, try to resist distractions. Focus on the message, take notes, jot down any questions or insights that come to mind.
Note-taking, though, it's not just about recording information, right? It's about actively processing.
Right. Synthesizing what you're hearing.
Are there any specific techniques you recommend?
Absolutely. Beyond the traditional linear note-taking, try things like mind mapping or the Cornell note system. Mind mapping helps you visually connect ideas, and the Cornell system encourages active recall by using cues and summaries.
So you're making those notes much more meaningful when you go back to them.
Exactly.
But it's more than just the note-taking, right?
Oh, for sure. It's about participating in those Q&A sessions. Don't be afraid to ask those thoughtful questions. It clarifies your understanding and it adds to the dialogue.
I think sometimes we hesitate to ask, because we're afraid to sound silly. But any tips for asking insightful questions?
Sure. Before you ask, consider whether your question is genuinely seeking clarification. Does it build on what the speaker said or offer a new perspective? Try to avoid questions that could be answered by the presentation itself or are just showing off what you know.
Right. So contributing to the learning experience.
Yeah.
Not the validation.
Exactly. And remember, even if you're not the one asking, listen to the questions others ask and the speaker's answers. You might learn something you hadn't considered.
It's about being open. That's key.
Yes. Now, let's shift gears to our final point that the sources emphasize, and that's networking.
We've touched on it.
We have.
But it deserves a deeper dive. Symposiums are prime opportunities for connecting, exchanging ideas, building those potentially valuable relationships.
It's a melting pot of expertise and perspectives. Don't be afraid to strike up those conversations, during coffee breaks, meals, even those gatherings after the sessions.
I think, though, approaching strangers can be a little bit intimidating. Any tips for making it feel more natural?
Of course. Start by being genuinely curious about the people you meet. Ask open-ended questions about their research, their impressions of the symposium, maybe their thoughts on a particular presentation. Listen closely to their responses and look for that common ground, something you can connect on that can spark a deeper conversation.
So approaching it as mutual learning rather than I'm here to network.
Right, exactly. And remember, even a casual conversation can lead to an amazing collaboration, a career advancement, or even just a new friend.
You really don't know. It's about embracing that social element.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground today, from that daunting registration process to the schedule, phrasal verbs, active listening, networking.
We really have. It's all about navigating those symposiums with purpose. And, of course, confidence.
But before we send our listeners off on their symposium adventures, I'm curious, as we, move into this digital age, do you think this traditional format of the academic gathering will evolve? Will we see more virtual or hybrid events?
That is a very interesting question. I mean, the way we share knowledge, the way we connect with each other, it's constantly changing. It's certainly something worth exploring further. Maybe some things are better suited for in-person interactions, while others lend themselves to, these virtual or hybrid formats.
So maybe we're heading towards this more flexible model.
It's possible, and it's very exciting to consider.
It is. It's definitely something to think about. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with that thought-provoking question.
As we navigate this changing landscape, how can we make sure that academic symposiums remain those vibrant hubs of exchange, fostering that collaboration, innovation, the advancement of knowledge?
We encourage you to reflect on that question, share your insights, contribute to shaping the future of these gatherings.
We hope you found this deep dive into the world of academic symposiums informative.
We wish you the best in navigating your next event, whether it's in-person, virtual, or even that hybrid format.
Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about how technology might open things up for folks who can't travel, make it more accessible.
Right. The potential is huge. Wider participation, cutting down on costs and travel time, and even new ways to actually engage with the material.
Imagine, attending a symposium from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Interacting with everyone through some platform.
It could really revolutionize how we share knowledge, yeah. But I think it's important to remember the value of actually being there in person, too.
Yeah, you're right.
Those chance encounters, those chats over coffee, that energy, that you get when you're all in the same room, tough to replicate online.
You're so right. There's something about being physically present,
Yeah.
surrounded by other scholars. It creates that sense of community, and you just can't beat those face-to-face connections.
Yeah, and often that's how the best collaborations start.
Exactly.
So maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle.
The best of both worlds.
Yeah, combining in-person and virtual to create something even better, more inclusive, more engaging, more impactful.
A hybrid model. Ooh, now that's something to think about. And maybe that's the perfect question to leave our listeners with.
Absolutely. As we move forward, how do we ensure that these symposiums stay vibrant?
Right.
How do we make sure there's still those hubs of exchange driving collaboration and innovation? How do we keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge?
Big questions, but important ones. We encourage everyone listening to really reflect on that, share your thoughts, help shape the future of these events. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of academic symposiums.
We did.
We learned a lot, and hopefully you did too.
We wish you all the very best at your next symposium, whether it's in person, virtual, or a bit of both.
Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep pushing those boundaries.